Hello. Uh, Before I start, as usual, you know, let me know what's going on. Tell me something you like. Tell me something you hate. And that's it. You know, how's everybody doing? How's life? How's things? Um, I guess today I think I'm gonna talk about passions. I guess or things you like. You strive to do and look forward to in the future and see yourself at and stuff like that. I and school too. I guess I don't know. I don't really enjoy school, but I know it has value and supporting the things that I want to do in the future. I not everybody's guaranteed a good position. Not through going through. Not everybody's guaranteed like a good position going through college. But you're not also guaranteed a good position not going. So, if you have the ability to, why not? Um, a lot of people go in for different things and stuff like that, and it's just if you have the ability to, even if it's 10 years later, or you went before, and then you're like, wow, I'm not enjoying this, and you have the ability to change your life, why not? Even if you're 40 and 50 and 30, you hear those stories, but not often because I think a lot of people don't believe they can, or I think that's where, they don't have that support or structure, but, um, you're the real support, or well, you're the real structure, I guess, of it all. If you're not somebody that wants to do something, then you're not gonna really do something because that's how you feel and that's how you are. Some things can be hard for you to do, and some things can be a struggle. And when people struggle, they tend not to like to do things, and it's understandable because you're struggling and it's hard. Nah, I feel like I said the same thing just in a different order, but I hope you understand what I meant by that. Really, it's just some things are hard to do, but I think you should be proud of the things you can do and the things you do. Um, for me, I guess like a lot of high school and stuff like that. I like I said, I was never like a bad student. I think schoolwork wasn't ever really hard for me to do, nor was it like something I struggled with. Especially when I really sat down and took the time to do it, I don't think there was an issue. I kind of like did it, and then I would get probably the highest grades I would ever get. Um, and that makes sense because I'm putting effort into actually doing my schoolwork, and I'm putting effort to actually studying and things like that. And uh, yeah, so I would get super tremendous good results, but then I would kind of like fall off. But then I wouldn't care too much because I didn't care too much. I would do really well at the start and I'd be like, I'm gonna do good, but then I don't care about doing good. I kind of just care about passing, and if that is something I care about, and that was something I really didn't care too much for, especially my last 2 years of high school. I kind of like fell off really hard, and I started like ditching and doing a lot of things. Like I just didn't like going to school anymore because life was just miserable, and it was like, what was the point? Um, my mom was kind of like already in a lot of like her depressive state herself, and my dad really, he was doing his own thing. He was supportive, but he wasn't like there like that. Um, I still view him as my father, and he comes around and he tries. He's just, he's a little. He's just struggles at being a dad. Not to say like he struggles at like wanting to and being there. He grew up differently where he didn't really have like a lot of love in his life, and he didn't really know how to be a parent. And nobody really does. I think everybody just, they have love for the kids, but they don't know what's the best thing to do for them. But anyways, I could go all deep into that, but I didn't really feel like school would do me anything, or if I could just work and then support my mom, like what else did I need to accomplish? I didn't really have goals or aspirations. Aspirations. I wasn't somebody that was like, oh yeah, I want to be an astronaut and I want to be an astrophysicist. Or I feel like I said that wrong again. I do that. But I doubt my words. Uh, but yeah, I didn't have that drive or passion for things where I really told myself I wanted to do something, and I really believed I could. Maybe I've been like, oh, I want to be a cop when I was younger, and then, or a firefighter, but, I didn't really get supported, and I didn't really like say much about it. It wasn't like I wasn't serious about it, I guess. As a kid, you kind of just stick to like the basic like five core jobs of like things like astronaut, firefighter, cop, uh, maybe the leader of your country, or um, and then there's like a scientist. Yeah, but you never like really go. And I guess you do go past that, and you're like, okay, I want to be a computer engineer or a regular engineer. I want to work on cars. I want to make video games. I want to study biochem. I want to study marine biology. And you kind of like branch out and do more, but I I kind of didn't do that really. Um, I didn't really do that now until like now, and it kind of makes me feel like I'm behind. You know, like I should have done this years ago, or should have been someone who was already graduating and being in a better position. But when I think like that, I feel like that demotivates me. That makes me go like, oh, I'm useless, or I'm terrible at this, or whatever. And I don't think that's a good way to think about myself. I don't think that anybody should think about themselves like that, because you're still alive and you're still able to do things. You're still here and you're still able to find some kind of purpose. Even if you're 50 years old, you still can do that. You can do something as long as you're like alive. I understand that maybe sometimes at some points people have disabilities and or their bodies just don't work like they used to, and they lose functions. But I think there's if you can't find something in what you wanted to do, exactly. I think the best thing to do is find what you can do as a person you are and what sounds interesting as much as you kind of have to work with what you have and believe that if somebody else could do this, in my state, then I could probably do this. Uh, I think you just have to find that really. Um, a lot of stuff is like kind of like I guess for me, a lot of stuff is kind of like, oh, I don't know what I like. I don't know what I want for myself. I don't really have goals, and I didn't really have a drive in life. I think one time I was asked like, "What do you want from yourself?" And I was like, "I don't know. I just want to be stable." And you kind of just have to think to yourself like, "What do what is stability?" You look into it more, and you have to find it, but it's kind of hard to really put that down in just a few days. Really, sometimes it won't come to you like that quick, and sometimes it changes, and it's just, what do you expect from yourself, and how can you get there? I feel like I really went off. Let me start this over. Not start over, but let me get back on track. I guess maybe I'm literally struggling with this one. It's just because I'm not really good at that. I'm not really good at the positive aspect of this. I'm not really sure like where to go and what to do with something like this. Um, I know that being positive and seeking things is good, but how exactly to get there, and I don't know, but I know trying stuff has helped. Looking more into things and understanding more about it, talking to people, and just researching. Yeah, it's helped. Uh, yeah, but I can't really tell you the positive aspect of like how to help you, but I will say that I believe that each and every one of us can do something. I think we have more. I think we're more capable than we put ourselves, you know, than we allow ourselves to be. And I think an aspect of that is that we're just insecure, or we've been put down, or not as supported, or not really we're not really all there, like we're just all like kind of just taking it one day at a time and not really like thinking about where the future will go. Uh, I think I'm someone who's more focused on the present, where I'm at, and in the past more than I am the future. But I think that I should try to look more into the future, not as a way to like get my hopes up and then get let down when I don't meet them. More to like form a plan, you know. Um, Cause a lot of school wasn't and doesn't feel like for me, but hello, sir. Sorry if you could hear my cat, but a lot of stuff for me in school wasn't really there for me. You know, like I didn't really like it, and I wasn't really like supported on it. Like maybe some of my other siblings were. My sister was kind of like the smart student and always got A's, and so, and she was really like, my dad was really on her to like do things, and my brother, his mom was there, and you know, and our mom was. I have a few older brothers, but yeah, you know, like our mom was, you know, more on him because he was the first child and he needed to focus now, and she needed to focus on herself and stuff like that. So, you know, a lot of like my, I think a lot of like my support wasn't there for like, you know, growing myself towards like school and stuff like that. I really didn't really find moments where somebody was like, "Yeah, if you want to do this, you know, try this for a career." Or, you know, I didn't really get pushed in school to do my homework and stuff like that. Um, hey, come here, come on. Sorry, my cat is being a cat. Um, but yeah, like you know, I didn't really get pushed to do my homework that often. I would kind of like have a lot of periods where I would be really behind on work, and then I would have to start catching up um, a bunch. And I really probably should have been held behind maybe a few grades, but when I sat down and I did the work, I was always able to, though. So maybe not. Maybe I didn't have to be held back because I did pay attention enough uh, in school to like learn the concepts and learn future ones, but I just didn't. I didn't really try. And you know, a lot of that is just because of motivation and support. You know, as a kid, I didn't have that. Um, I can only think really like one time, and that was because I was about to fail like the fourth, or I think it was like my fourth grade, and or not fourth grade. What am I thinking? I don't like I was about to fail in school. I don't remember what it was. Thinking like different terms now, but yeah, I was about to fail in school when I didn't really have like much. I didn't really care. I just wanted to watch YouTube videos and play the game. But you know, my mom was like, you know, do your homework, and but she didn't really, you know, she would tell me to do my homework, but she wouldn't sit down with me and do my homework. Uh, she would always have like, she would always tell my cousin or my brother and be like, tell him to not tell him to do his homework, but like help him do his homework. And then I would, you know, they wouldn't do that, so they would just be like, yeah, do your homework, and then I would sit there for a little bit and then just go on YouTube and watch videos. Um, and then you know, I kind of just like stuff like that where I didn't really get pushed to do things, and I didn't really care to do things because that was just the mindset I was in. And for a very long time, I didn't care about progressing in life, and I didn't care about doing something with myself and just stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I think that now that I'm finding those things for myself, I'm a little happier because having a goal really helps you out. Having a goal really helps you out. But yeah, I think a lot of that was just mindset and you know help. Really, I think it's important to help your kids. To find something they like and help them explore things. Um, and I don't really blame my parents for that. I just, I don't really, I just don't really have like, I just didn't have that. It's not their fault. I was still loved as a kid, and I didn't feel like my parents hated me or anything, or just like that. They just were different people, and at that point, and they struggled a lot. Um, um, and they always said like things like, um, my parents always said like things like they always felt bad for me, not necessarily because they treated me wrong or they thought they did. Or, well, they thought they did, by like not experiencing the same things. Like, they really felt like, I think something my mom used to always say was like, I feel bad a lot for you because, or I feel bad for a lot of the things related to you, or I don't know. I can't remember like I can't remember, but I'm trying to like put it in a way that like makes sense. But she always said she felt bad for me, um, and like she didn't really do as much as she should have for me, and my dad also said something similar. Where like, I know I wasn't always there, like the best I should have, but um, and I told them both like, yeah, I love you still. I think you did the best I can, and there's worse parents out there, that weren't that could be not in your life, and they could treat you poorly and stuff like that, and so I'm thankful for that and having parents that still cared enough to be in my life, but they always did say things like that, and you know I kind of felt bad about it because I was kind of like essentially the kid they gave up on. And they that was kind of like the high point of like their sadness. They went through like a divorce and they split off, and my dad's like living alone, and my mom's working like two jobs that are like very like overtime and stuff like that, and and it was a lot. It was a lot to be in that position, and I understand that necessarily they didn't really give up on me because they wanted to, or you know they hated me. It was just because they were just in bad times in their life, uh, and I could have grown up and been like a child who like hated people and hate things, and I could have been really bitter about that and stuff like that. But I think I got a good enough support where I did, I did still want to be a good person. Um, and I think in that aspect, they may have not been all there for school and stuff, but they were there in the sense of, ouch. They were there in the sense of, they were there in the sense of, sorry, my cat's like biting my hand and stuff, but they were there in the sense of like, they, they raised me to be good. They raised me to be better person and care about the people around me and stuff like that. Where socially, I was like, I'm awkward, but a lot of people that I know say like, yeah, you're a really good person and you have good qualities. And, maybe I don't feel like that and I don't believe that, but, a lot of people do say that. And it's, so I try to be proud of that aspect. And I try to be proud of things that people don't say, but I believe in myself because, you know, that's what I believe for myself, and that's what I believe that I can do, and stuff like that. Where, you know, I'm happy with myself as a person. Uh, and I may still struggle with like school now, but at least when I do it, I'm not feeling like I'm incapable of doing so, or I'm worthless and stuff like that. At least not all the time, but now I'm able to break that feeling of I was the worthless kid, or I was unable to do things like my siblings, or I should have been more ahead in life, and this and that, because I'm not really doing anything but hindering myself from getting somewhere. I'm really just pushing myself down, and I'm not really helping myself. And I think that really, that stunts you. It hinders you, as I said, and that's really it. I think you're a capable person. Whoever's watching this, I think you're able to do the best with your life, and I think you're awesome. I might not sound like it, but I think you, I think you are. Not because you're watching my videos, but because you're a human being just like me, and you're someone that's able to grow and find something that works for you. I know that there's a lot of people in the world, and there's a lot of people doing the same things and this and that. But just because you don't have the same levels of success doesn't mean there aren't success. There isn't success. I think you have to really pay attention to the success of yourself and where you're at and stuff like that. I might not have 1,000 or 1,000,000 followers now, or I might not have 30, 100 people following me, but I do have, I have 100 basically, and I'm happy about that. Or like basically 100. It's not 100. I think it was like 90 last time I checked, but 90 people subscribed, and 90 people valued what I was saying, or thought I was good enough to press that button for, and stuff like that. Maybe not 90 people are watching my video, but 90 people are support the message that I made, and I think that's nice. You know, I think that helps me want to keep growing, and that helps me want to be like, wow, I want to help more. I want to be encourageable, or I want to give other people an outlet to say how they feel, and I just, I feel better. I feel better about the people that are around me, and I feel that I feel like they come here because I am helping in that aspect, and that makes me happy. That somebody took the time to listen and really related to some things, or they really found what I was saying was motivational, or something, or they say, "Wow, they feel just like me," and thank you, because thank you, just thank you, really. I don't know. I feel like I'm a little too off on this. I know a lot of people have worse situations than me, and I'm glad that you're still alive, even in those worst situations, because that just means you can find a way out. Maybe you don't feel like that now, and maybe you can't now, but I know that you will, and I know that you will get somewhere, and I know that you will feel better about yourself, and I know that, not that you will. Let me correct that, because let me say that you can feel better about yourself. You are capable. You're you're cool. You're just like me. Um, you're struggling with something, and you're trying to find a way to get out of that. You're trying to find a way to be happy about what you have, and what you can gain, and what you can find, and where you can go. I think you should continue to have dreams, and I think you should continue to have things you like, and find yourself. Um, I guess something I do want to talk about before I go is like something I never really thought about, or like something I never really like had something for, where I would say like I never had a favorite food. You know, I never could tell people. I would be like, yeah. I would just say a food that I like eating. Not like eating, but a food that I eat the most. And I'd be like, I eat pizza a lot, so I guess I like pizza. But it was like, or I eat noodles a lot, so I guess I like noodles. But yeah, um, I like ramen. I like ramen now. I really think like, and I don't mean like ramen like made from home. I like ramen from you know professionally cooked, I guess, or something like that. I like ramen shops and things of that nature. But I think my favorite food, really, something I feel emotional about when I eat it, and it brightens my days. A good stew, like a good soup, something, a soup or a stew. It doesn't matter really. It's just, I think that makes me think of my mother, her her food, her stews and stuff she cooked. That makes me think of like days I was sick, and I was getting, I was given a soup to help with my cold, or maybe it was just winter, and um, really cold one day, and I, instead of making a batch of cookies, I made a soup. Um, I could think that, when it was super hot and I was sweating in summer heat or something, I still went and made a soup or a stew, because I was just like, man, I really want to eat that, but I know I shouldn't because it's so hot. But I didn't care, because I got to eat my favorite food, and it was like, man, it's so hot, I'm miserable, but I'm gonna make a stew, and I'm gonna enjoy it. And I'm sweating. I have my shirt off, and I'm dying with the lights on, and just sitting at the table, but I'm enjoying my stew still. Um, it really is like the Ratatouille scene where you eat the you eat the food, and then it's like he thinks of all his memories with his mom and stuff like that, and it's just, or like his favorite memory, and I think that's what stew does to me. It makes me just forget about everything, and just enjoy that I'm alive to eat this. Um, And it doesn't even really have to be a specific soup or a specific type. I just have to like it. It can be onion and mushroom stew or soup in it, or it can be a beef stew or something. And usually I like it. Chicken noodle soup. But I'm, you know, I just I, I like stew and soup. I think they're pretty great. um, and if there's some favorite food you like and you want to talk about it, and then the memories it gives you or the feeling you have when you eat it, then I'd like to hear that. Um, if you want to talk about your day or something like that, I'd like to hear that as well. Or if you want to do things like that, um, anything really, you can talk about it. That's kind of what I made this for, and I really made this just to talk to people and brighten their days. I wanted to really hear from others. Something that I like doing is talking to others. I like being a good person, and I like, and I like emotionally supporting others. But I don't, I'm not like of course, I'm not out in the world, fighting on the front lines. Not fighting on the front lines, but, donating and helping with like relief efforts and stuff like that. And I think maybe I'm not there as that type of person where I'm like, I feel like that's not for me, but I see the good in that, but I don't think that's something like I could do personally, or it's something I want to do, to be honest. But I I want to be good in a different way, where from my own home, I could help somebody. From my own home, I could be some kind of support. Um, when I really first um, I think she was really like a big part of wanting to do more. Um, because at first it was like, oh, I want to do more to help her. I want to be more in our relationship. I want to be more to like support somebody important to me, and I got that. Not I got that, but that was something like I really wanted to do. I wanted to be something for this person. Um, and now going through therapy and really like exploring myself, I understand that you should always want to be more for yourself first. You can do that for other people, and pardon me, you can do that, and you can you can be more for somebody. You can be like helpful, and you can want to do those things. But importantly, the most important thing you can do is that you be more for yourself, and you grow yourself, and you care about yourself. You find things you like, and you find things and places you want to be, and you just go there, and you say, I'm happy, with myself, and I'm happy with myself that I really want other people to feel the same way as I do. I want to help others feel happy about themselves. I want others to, just get somewhere and enjoy the life that they have. And I may not be able to do that for everybody, and I may not do it correctly, or I may not, I may not be the best at doing it, but I do. That is something that I like to do, and I would like to do, and I do like to do, and I, and I want to get there. I think the two things that drive me in my life is supporting others and soup. um, and on top of that, I think when I want a stable life, I want a stable life so I can do those things. I want to be a stable person so I can be that person to do those things. Because if I'm not stable, how can you do something for others? You know, if you're not happy and you're not a strong person, how do you expect that? You know, I think you should love yourself. Or, you say, okay, I want to be a doctor, or I want to graduate college. You know, don't make your goal graduate college. Make your goal to pass this class and start from there. Make your goal to be, I want to pass this test. I want to complete all my assignments this week. No, you should build up to graduating. Graduating is the end of your goals. And then once you hit that, you have to find a new one. So I think you should find something that you can do in the meantime, something you can strive to get somewhere in the meantime. I think that's important. Thank you for listening to me and stuff like that. Wherever you are, have a good night, day, or solar eclipse, as I say. I don't know if I'm going to stick with that, but, it kind of just keeps coming out, and I'm like, it works, I guess. Talking to the aliens in the sky, wherever, I don't know, but, hey, technically aliens exist, because, there's, micro creatures on other planets, and because they're not on our planet, but or not necessarily because they are not on our planet, but because they exist on a different planet and they formed there, they are technically like aliens, even though it's like alien bacteria. So when you think about it, it is, aliens do exist in that simple sense of things. So to my alien viewers, I hope that's not offensive. But thank you, really. Thank you for listening, and thank you for speaking if you do.